Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about a painting by Marcel Duchamp. It's called Nude, Descending a Staircase No.2. It was painted in 1912 and is about 58 inches high, 35 inches wide, oil on canvas. Let's take a look. Marcel Duchamp, a figure I have no particular liking for, the triumph of intellect over substance. And ironically, his hatred of the iconisation of artworks and artists led directly to him being iconised as the father of conceptual art. He came to despise the art world, and as every good intellectual knows, destruction through fancy ideas and unnecessary words can be just as powerful as taking a pair of scissors to a canvas, at least to those who are more interested in the idea of art rather than the art itself. Now, I'm not here to talk about the ideas of the Dadaists and their interest in intellectualising practical and indeed physical reality. Instead, what gets me going is what actually is the works themselves. Just a quick look at Marcel Duchamp's work reveals little more than a child throwing their toys out of the pram because they are not getting what they want or don't like the way things are. But instead of fighting art with art, he took the route that most kids do, to attempt to wreak destruction on everything that isn't what they think it should be. So you get his drawings on prints of other people's art. Pharmacy is one example, and of course LHOOQ, a print of the Mona Lisa, with his rather teenage additions of a beard and moustache, and the title which, so I'm told, if read out phonetically in French, translates as "She's got a hot arse." And let us not forget his infamous fountain, a urinal signed with the fictitious name R. Mutt. This is a particularly interesting work since the hater of the iconisation of art not only accepted by omission that he was the author, which he was not, but he commissioned a number of replicas in the 1960s, some 50 years after its creation, no doubt to enhance his personal standing as an artist. The actual creator of Fountain, a name not coined by the artist but by a critic, is thought to have been a friend of his, a woman called Elsa von Freytag-Loringhoven, which is confirmation, if anyone needed, that all he really wanted to do was fuck things up. Fake news in 1917. When I was learning to paint, I looked at every kind of art I could find, and this stuff just left me cold. Being a teenager at the time, I was looking for something a little more grown up, something to teach me something about the world, to stretch me, and not the reiteration of juvenile ideas that my friends and I would come up with day in, day out at school. Suffice to say, I was not impressed. It did appeal to one or two of my friends, but my upbringing left me with a particular view of those who value ideas over the physical world around them. But enough of these tedious histories. I am interested in reality, and one reality is a painting that Duchamp painted in 1912 called Nude, Descending a Staircase No.2. This, quite obviously, was his second attempt at this subject. The first version was not very good, not painted terribly well, looks a bit like a test run or a failed attempt, possibly unfinished, certainly lacking in quality. His second attempt, however, the painting I'm reacting to here, is actually pretty good, and by a long way the best real work of art he ever produced. I know those conceptual aficionados will wail and scream, but honestly, what can you get more out of as a human being encountering a work of art hoping for something that helps you understand the nature of existence? A painting trying to express movement and life, an innate aspect of anyone looking at it? Or a piece of porcelain sanitary ware, necessarily accompanied by verbose explanations as to why it is art? Yes, I know it's all very funny to ridicule an establishment that you perceive as refusing you entry to their special little club, which is the way I think Duchamp saw things when this painting caused a bit of a fuss when first exhibited. But surely this is his damaged ego talking, rather ironic for a man famed for his intellect, where argument and discourse take you away from the experience of the common man or woman, enabling you to brush aside those annoying things normal people call feelings. To me, he comes across as a man who never felt like he belonged anywhere, so fought back with destruction instead of creation, like most children do, before hiding away behind his staid mask of clever intellectuality to play chess. which in itself is no bad thing. I'm fond of the game of chess myself, but it kind of reminds me of those football hooligans in the UK in the 1980s who would goad and taunt the opposing team supporters just enough to get the fight started and then run away as fast as they could as the melee took hold to make sure they didn't get caught up in the fight. So, having got all of that out of the way, let's take a look at the painting itself. It's all on canvas, about 58 inches high and 35 wide. What I like about this painting is its movement, which of course was the whole point. You get the sense of the nude descending the staircase as if your brain has become unable to quickly forget what it has just seen, and so the images overlap and the history of action becomes visible in a single moment. Movement in paintings is something the futurists went for, and of course, round about this time there was a fervour of experimentation when it came to how to represent the constant change of life in a static two-dimensional image. However, I have to say that the idea of showing movement, though a good one, is a bit limiting. If you think about it, the only real point in doing that is to further explore and show life. We all move, all the time, whether or not we're on the staircase. But my opinion is that the cubists had it right, in that showing the three-dimensionality of an object gives you a better view of life than movement itself, since not everything moves. But in cubism, though the objects or people in the paintings may be still, the artist, and therefore the viewer, does the movement. And what could be a better expression of life than one's own movement, which is something we can all relate to directly, whether we are able to descend a staircase or not. It makes us part of the reality of the painting, rather than just an observer of it. Another way of looking at it is that we are witnessing time. Where the cubists compress time into a single moment, this painting overlaps points in time, their own place on the continuum remaining intact. But again, I find it a bit limiting, since it's a bit like watching the same 2 or 3 seconds of a film again and again and again. The glory of cubism is that the way it works portrays being more than have been, if you see the difference. In this painting, looking at it now, it does almost seem a bit diagrammatic. It's as if Duchamp is tracking the figure, marking where and when they were, which does give you the sense of movement he was going for, but that's pretty much it. There's no real sense of character or nuance. It is just the movement that is expressed. So for that reason, I think I'll give this painting a steady 6.5 out of 10. Great image, but limited in expressive content. As for my own reaction to it, well, that didn't go so well. It seemed to start off okay, but then I felt somehow I was just going through the motions. It was becoming what I imagined it to be, and so in those circumstances, things have to change. If you're not looking for something you can't see, then all you get is a glorified design. Many painters have ended up doing that, and basing their whole careers on it. So I turned the camera off for a couple of days and started again, painting over what I had already done. I should also say at this point that the canvas I was painting on was not one of mine, but a painting I found in a skip. I found 3 canvases actually, and used the other large canvas for Picasso's Child Holding a Dove, which I'd done in another video. The canvases had been painted on with pretty poor attempts at nudes, but the paint was thin and so ripe for painting over again, saving me much time and money when it comes to stretching and preparing a canvas. Once the restart began, it wasn't too long before I found another way to paint how I felt about Duchamp's work. To me, it seems like a reworking of his painting, which is not exactly what I was hoping for, but at least the painting led its own way, and when a painting does that, telling you what to do rather than you dictating what it should be, at least you know you are going to end up with something that works, even if it wasn't what you were hoping for. So overall, I'm pleased with it, and looking forward to doing the next one. But before we get on to that, let's take a look at my reaction to Marcel Duchamp's Nude Descending a Staircase No. 2.